All right. Um, so I think this is chapter 18 of Where the Red Fern Grows. Oh, it's filming the screen. Okay. So, if I'm getting it right, just want to make sure, hopefully this tab, yes. So chapter 17 is where we left off. Just gave the video a like. No one's going to see it. Chapter 17 is where we left off. The end of chapter 17. Feeling smart for figuring out their conversation, I turned over and fell asleep. Yes. Alright, now let us continue with chapter 18. Just enlarge it here. Chapter 18 of Where the Red Fern Grows by Wilson Rawls. Although the winning of the cups and the money was a big event in my life, it didn't change my hunting any. I was out after the ringtails every night. I had been hunting the river bottoms hard for about 3 weeks. On that night, I decided to go back to the cyclone timber country. I had barely reached the hunting ground when my dog struck a trail. Old Dan opened up first. They struck a trail on a ridge and then dropped down into a deep canyon, up the other side, and broke out into some flats. I could tell that the scent was hot from their steady bawling. 3 times they tread the animal. Every time I came close to the tree, the animal would jump, and the race would be on. After a while, I knew it wasn't a coon. I decided it was a bobcat. I didn't like to have my dogs tree the big cats, for their fur wasn't any good, and all I could expect was 2 cut-up hounds. They could kill the largest bobcat in the hills, and had on several occasions, but to me it was useless. The only good I could see in killing one was getting rid of a vicious predatory animal. The fourth time they treed, we were on top of a mountain. After the long chase, I figured the animal was winded and would stay in the tree. In a trot, I started to them. As I neared the tree, little Anne came to me, reared up, and whined. By her actions, I knew something was wrong. I stopped. In the moonlight, I could see old Dan sitting on his haunches, staring up at the tree and bawling. The tree had lots of dead leaves on it. I knew it was a large white oak because it is one of the last trees in the mountains to lose its leaves. Old Dan kept bawling. Then he did something he had never done before. For seconds his deep voice was still, and silence settled over the mountains. My eyes wandered from the tree to him. His lips were curled back, and he snarled as he stared into the dark foliage of the tree. His teeth gleamed white in the moonlight. The hair on his neck and along his back stood on end. A low, deep, rumbling growl rolled from his throat. I was scared and called to him. I wanted to get away from there. Again I called, but it was no use. He wouldn't leave the tree. for in his veins flowed the braided blood of a hunting hound. In his fighting heart there was no fear. I set the lantern down and tightened my grip on the handle of the axe. Slowly I started walking toward him. I thought, if I can get close enough to him, I can grab his collar. I kept my eyes on the tree as I edged forward. Little Anne stayed by my side. She too was watching the tree. Then I saw them, two burning, yellow eyes staring at me from the shadowy foliage of the tree. I stopped, petrified with fear. The deep bang of old Dan stopped, and again the silence closed in. I stared back at the unblinking eyes. I could make out the bulk of a large animal crouched on a huge branch, close to the trunk of the big tree. Then it moved. I heard the scratch of a laser. I heard the scratch of razor sharp claws on the bark. It stood up and moved out of the shadows onto the limb. I saw it clearly as it passed between the moon and me. I knew what it was. It was the devil cat of the Ozarks, the mountain lion. The silence was shattered by one long, loud bawl from old Dan. I never heard my dog bawl like that. It was different. His voice rang out over the mountains, loud and clear. The vibration of the deep tones rolled in the silence of the frosty night, on and on, out over the flats, down the canyon, and died away in the earth. I'm just going to repeat that. His voice rang out over the mountains, loud and clear. The vibration of the deep tones rolled in the silence of the frosty night, on and on, out over the flats, down in the canyons, and died away in the rim rocks, like the cry of a lost soul. Old Dan had voiced his challenge to the devil cat. There was a low cough and a deep growl from the lion. I saw him crouch. I knew it was coming. My hands felt hot and sweaty on the smooth ash handle of the axe. With a blood-curdling scream, he sprang from the tree with claws outspread and long, yellow fatigues bared. Old Dan didn't wait. He met the lion in the air. The heavy weight belled him over and over. He wound up in a fallen tree trunk. The impact of the two bodies threw the lion off balance. Little Anne darted in. Her aim was true. I heard the snap of her steel-trapped jaws as they closed on his throat. With a squall of pain and rage, the big cat rolled over on his side, dragging little Anne with him. His right paw reached out and curved over her shoulder. Sinews tightened and razor-sharp claws dug inward. With a cry of pain, she loosened her hold. I saw the blood squirting from the deep wound in her shoulder. She ignored it and bored back into the fight. Old Dan, stunned for an instant from the impact of the lion's body, fought his way from the treetop. Bawling the cry of the damned, he charged back in. I went bareback and charged into the fight. There in the flinty hills of the Ozarks, I fought for the lives of my dogs. I fought with the only weapon I had, the sharp cutting blade. I fought with the only weapon I had, the sharp cutting blade of a double-bitted axe. Screaming like a madman, with tears running down my face, I hacked and chopped at the big snarling mountain cat. Well, now I lost where I left off. Okay, this is just part